Ever seen a human beg for mercy? No, me neither. Commander K sneered as he addressed the assembly. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension. The various species gathered, eyeing each other nervously. K's 7-foot frame dominated the center, his scaled fists clenched as he paced. Humans are weak, he continued, his voice dripping with contempt. They haven't participated in a single galactic conflict in over a millennium. They hide behind their diplomacy and their fragile alliances, too scared to stand on their own two legs. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Terran Empire had long been a subject of ridicule. Their absence from the war fronts of the galaxy was interpreted as cowardice. For centuries, humanity had managed to stay out of the fray, negotiating peace where others waged war, buying time with treaties and trade deals. It was a strategy that had kept their worlds intact while others burned, but it had earned them little respect. Perhaps we should issue an ultimatum, suggested Saul, a slender amphibious being with skin the color of deep water. Force them to choose a side. Either they fight with us against the Krogan, or we dismantle their precious empire piece by piece. They won't fight, Kay scoffed. They'll surrender before the first shot is fired. Humans are too civilized, too evolved to get their hands dirty. The assembly nodded, the decision all but made. A message would be sent to the Terran Empire demanding their immediate involvement in the galactic conflict against the Krogan. It was a war that had raged for decades, consuming entire systems in its fury. The Council had grown desperate for an edge, and the Terran Empire, with its vast resources and advanced technology, was an untapped wellspring. If they refused, the Council would invade and strip them of their riches. But what the Galactic Council had failed to understand, what they could not have known, was that humanity's peace was not born from fear. It was a carefully maintained facade, a delicate balance that had kept the true nature of the Terran Empire hidden for centuries. The humans had not forgotten how to wage war. They had simply chosen not to, believing that their survival depended on it. The message was sent, broadcast across the galaxy on every frequency, in every language known to the Council. It reached Terra Prime within hours, its tone dripping with thinly veiled threats and condescension. 2 days later, the Council received a response. The message was short, almost disappointingly so, 3 simple words. We accept. Prepare. There was no additional context, no conditions, no negotiations, just a promise that the Terran Empire would join the war effort. Commander K stared at the message, his confidence faltering for the first time. What is this? He growled, his eyes narrowing at the screen. This isn't the response of a frightened species. ST shifted uneasily beside him. Perhaps they intend to offer support from a distance, providing resources but not soldiers, K suggested. Cross shook his head. No, the message is clear. They're joining the war. But why so suddenly? Why so casually? The Council members exchanged nervous glances. The earlier bravado evaporated in the face of this unexpected development. Humanity's response had been far too calm, far too measured. It was not the reaction of a species reluctantly dragged into conflict. It was the response of a species that had been waiting for an excuse. What do we know about their military? K demanded, turning to his aides. What are we up against? One of his officers, a squat insectoid being named Vil, fidgeted nervously. The Terran Empire has been notoriously secretive about its military capabilities. We have estimates based on trade records and technological exports, but estimates, K interrupted, his voice rising in anger. What do we have on their actual forces? Very little, sir, Vil admitted. Their fleet is large, but it's been engaged primarily in exploration and trade protection. They haven't fought a major war in over 1,000 years. Their soldiers are rumored to be well-trained, but again, we have no solid data. Their last recorded engagement was a skirmish with the Drari, which ended in a diplomatic settlement before any real conflict could occur. K's frustration mounted. And what of their weapons? Their tactics? Unknown, Vil replied, his mandibles clicking anxiously. The Terran Empire does not share such information, and their dealings with other species have been strictly non-military. The commander slammed his fist down on the console, the force of the blow reverberating through the chamber. Damn it, we're walking into this blind. Stahl placed a tentative hand on Kay's arm. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Send a delegation to negotiate terms. Ensure that their involvement will be to our advantage. Kay shook his head. No, the message is clear. They're joining the war. But why so suddenly? Why so casually? The council members exchanged nervous glances. The earlier bravado evaporated in the face of this unexpected development. Humanity's response had been far too calm, far too measured. It was not the reaction of a species reluctantly dragged into conflict. It was the response of a species that had been waiting for an excuse. What do we know about their military? Kay demanded, turning to his aides. What are we up against? One of his officers, a squat insectoid being named V, fidgeted nervously. The Terran Empire has been notoriously secretive about its military capabilities. We have estimates based on trade records and technological exports, but estimates? Kay interrupted, his voice rising in anger. What do we have on their actual forces? Very little, sir, V admitted. Their fleet is large, but it's been engaged primarily in exploration and trade protection. They haven't fought a major war in over 1,000 years. Their soldiers are rumored to be well-trained, but again, we have no solid data. Their last recorded engagement was a skirmish with the Drari, which ended in a diplomatic settlement before any real conflict could occur. Kay's frustration mounted. And what of their weapons? Their tactics? Unknown, V replied, his mandibles clicking anxiously. The Terran Empire does not share such information, and their dealings with other species have been strictly non-military. The commander slammed his fist down on the console, the force of the blow reverberating through the chamber. Damn it, we're walking into this blind. Stahl placed a tentative hand on Kay's arm. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Send a delegation to negotiate terms. Ensure that their involvement will be to our advantage. Kay shook his head. No, we've already committed to this course. If we back down now, we'll appear weak, and weakness is something we cannot afford. Not with the Krogan breathing down our necks. The council members reluctantly agreed, though the unease in the room was palpable. The Terran Empire's sudden willingness to engage in war had thrown them off balance. But there was no turning back now. They would meet the humans on the battlefield and secure their assistance by any means necessary. Within days, the Council fleet was mobilized, the largest armada ever assembled in the galaxy's history. Hundreds of warships, from sleek frigates to hulking battleships, gathered at the rendezvous point near the edge of Terran space. The Krogan were a fearsome enemy, their biotechnological weapons and relentless aggression a constant threat. The Council had expected to fight a war of attrition, but with humanity's involvement, they hoped for a swift and decisive victory. As the fleet waited for the Terran forces to arrive, tension ran high. The crews whispered rumors, speculating on what the humans might bring to the table. Some imagined fleets of sleek, advanced starships bristling with unknown weaponry. Others whispered of mysterious superweapons hidden away on Terran worlds capable of annihilating entire planets. But as the hours passed and no sign of the Terran Empire appeared, doubts began to creep in. Where are they? Kay muttered, pacing the bridge of his flagship. They said they would be here. Perhaps they're planning to rendezvous with us further out, Saul suggested, though his tone was uncertain. Kay was about to reply when an alert flashed across the main console. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's from the Terran Empire. On screen, Kay ordered. The image that appeared was not what anyone had expected. It was not a fleet, nor a delegation of human diplomats. It was a single man, clad in a dark uniform, his expression unreadable. He stood in what appeared to be the command center of a warship, though the design was unlike any the Council had seen before. This is Admiral Marcus Reeve of the Terran Empire, the man said, his voice calm and composed. We are en route to your location. Prepare to receive us. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Kay stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. There had been no sign of hesitation, no trace of the weakness he had expected from the humans. Admiral Reeve had spoken as if he were already in command of the situation, as if the Council fleet were his to direct. "Something's not right," Kay muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "They're too confident." Stahl, ever the voice of caution, nodded. "We should be prepared for anything, Commander. The humans may have been hiding their true strength from us all along." Kay scowled but said nothing. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something far more dangerous than they had anticipated. And as the shadow of the Terran Empire loomed ever closer, the Galactic Council began to realize that they might have made a grave mistake. The tension on the bridge of Kay's flagship was thick enough to cut with a blade as the Terran Empire's fleet emerged from hyperspace. The display screens flared to life, showing ship after ship materializing in the void. But these were not the sleek, elegant designs the Council had envisioned. The Terran vessels were brutish and utilitarian, with sharp, angular lines and an intimidating presence. Each one bristled with weapons that seemed almost excessive, even by the Council's standards. "By the gods," someone whispered on the bridge. KRA stared, his reptilian eyes narrowing. There was no mistaking the firepower arrayed before them. The Terran fleet was massive, far larger than anything the Council had anticipated. And yet, it wasn't just the sheer number of ships that caused a wave of unease to ripple through the assembled Council officers. It was the way they moved, with precise, synchronized efficiency, like a predator stalking its prey. "Open a channel," Kay ordered, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The screen flickered, and Admiral Reeve's image reappeared. This time, the Admiral was seated in the command chair of his ship, his demeanor as calm as ever. "Commander KRA," Reeve began, inclining his head slightly in a gesture that could have been respect or mere formality. "The Terran Empire has arrived as promised. We stand ready to engage the Krogan alongside the Galactic Council." Kay's jaw tightened. There was something unsettling about Reeve's composure, as if the Admiral was fully aware of the Council's doubts and didn't care in the slightest. "You brought quite the fleet, Admiral," Kay said, forcing a smile. "It's more than we expected. We believe in being prepared," Reeve replied smoothly. "The Krogan are a formidable enemy. It would be unwise to underestimate them." Kay's eyes narrowed further. "I hope you understand the gravity of the situation, Admiral. This war is not like the skirmishes you may have experienced in the past. The Krogan do not negotiate, and they do not retreat. They fight until their enemies are crushed beneath them." Reeve's expression didn't change. "The Terran Empire is fully aware of the Krogan's nature. We have faced similar threats before, though perhaps not on this scale. Rest assured, Commander, we are ready." Kay's instinct screamed at him that something was wrong, but he couldn't place what it was. He was a seasoned warrior and had faced countless foes on the battlefield, but this felt different. "Very well," KRA said finally. "We will advance together. The Krogan fleet has been detected in the Nestor sector. We plan to intercept them before they can reach the core systems." "A sound strategy," Reeve agreed. "We will follow your lead, Commander." Kay ended the transmission and turned to his officer. "Monitor their movements closely," he ordered. "I want to know if they make even the slightest deviation from our course." The Council fleet began its approach to the Nestor sector, the Terran ships falling into formation behind them. The combined armada was a sight to behold, a testament to the might of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. And yet, an undercurrent of fear ran through the Council ranks. The Terran Empire's sudden involvement, their overwhelming show of force, and Reeve's unsettling calm had thrown everyone off balance. As they neared the Krogan's last known position, the tension mounted. The Council's fleet moved cautiously, scanning for any sign of the enemy. The Krogan were known for their ambush tactics, using their bioengineered warships to launch devastating surprise attacks. "There," one of the officers shouted, pointing to the screen. A swarm of red blips appeared on the radar, rapidly closing in on their position. "Enemy fleet detected," KRA barked. "All ships, Prepare for engagement. The Council's warships moved into battle formation, their weapon systems powering up. The Krogan ships were massive organic monstrosities, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent energy. They surged forward with terrifying speed, intent on ramming into the Council's lines. "Fire at will," Kay ordered, and the void erupted in a blaze of energy as the Council fleet opened fire. Beams of plasma and kinetic projectiles streaked across space, slamming into the Krogan ships. The enemy vessels retaliated with their own bioweaponry, spewing corrosive acid and spore-filled pods that clung to the Council ships, eating away at their hulls. The battle was fierce. The void lit up with the flashes of exploding ships and the shrieks of dying vessels. The Krogan, true to their reputation, fought with relentless fury, throwing themselves at the Council fleet with no regard for their own losses. But then, the Terran Empire made its move. Without warning, the Terran ships surged forward, breaking formation and plunging directly into the heart of the Krogan fleet. Kay watched in shock as the Terran vessels unleashed a barrage of firepower unlike anything he had ever seen. It was not just the volume of fire, but the precision. The Terran weapons cut through the Krogan ships with surgical accuracy, targeting weak points with unerring efficiency. "What are they doing?" Stahl gasped. "They're breaking formation." Kay's eyes widened as he realized the truth. The Terran weren't breaking formation. They were executing a plan they hadn't shared with the Council. The Krogan fleet, caught off guard by the sudden overwhelming assault, began to falter. The Terran ships moved with terrifying coordination, their every maneuver calculated to inflict maximum damage with minimal risk. The Krogan, for all their ferocity, couldn't withstand the onslaught. One by one, their ships were torn apart, their once imposing fleet reduced to wreckage in a matter of minutes. And all the while, Admiral Reeves' calm voice echoed in Kay's mind. "We stand ready." As the last Krogan ship exploded, silence fell over the battlefield. The Council fleet, battered and scarred, hung in the void, stunned by the sudden and decisive victory. The Terran ships regrouped, their hulls barely scratched, their weapon systems already powering down. Kay sat in his command chair, his mind reeling. The battle had ended almost as soon as it had begun, and it was the Terrans who had ended it, not with brute force, but with cold, calculated precision. They knew, Kay whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. They knew exactly how to defeat them. But even as the realization dawned on him, another thought began to take shape, a thought far more terrifying. If the Terrans could do this to the Krogan, what could they do to the Galactic Council? The Council fleet drifted in stunned silence. The wreckage of the Krogan vessels scattered like debris from a broken dream. The victory had been so swift, so absolute, that it felt surreal. Coach's gaze remained fixed on the Terran ships, the sleek, dark shapes now eerily still in the aftermath of the battle. He could feel the eyes of his crew on him, searching for answers he didn't have. "Commander," Stahl's voice broke through the silence, his tone cautious. "What are your orders?" KRA hesitated, his mind racing. He had spent years preparing for a protracted war with the Krogan, only to have it snatched away in a matter of minutes by an ally he barely understood. The implications were staggering. The Terrans had not just joined the war, they had ended it before it could truly begin. And now, they held the fate of the galaxy in their hands. "Open a channel to Admiral Reeve," C ordered, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. The screen flickered, and once again Admiral Reeve's calm, inscrutable face filled the display. Behind him, the bridge of his ship was a hive of activity, but the Admiral himself seemed utterly composed, as if he had known all along that this would be the outcome. "Commander Kay," Reeve greeted him with a nod. "A decisive victory, wouldn't you agree?" Kay stared at him, searching for any sign of arrogance or deceit. But there was none, only that same unsettling calm. "Yes, Admiral," Kay replied, choosing his words carefully. "Decisive indeed. The Council is grateful for your assistance. Your tactics were highly effective." "Thank you, Commander," Reeve said, his expression unchanged. "The Terran Empire is always willing to aid our allies in times of need." The word allies hung in the air like a silent threat. K could feel the unspoken question from his crew and the Council fleet. Were they truly allies, or had they simply exchanged one threat for another? KRA cleared his throat. With the Krogan fleet destroyed, the immediate threat has been neutralized. But we still have much to discuss regarding our future cooperation. Reeves' eyes seemed to sharpen, though his smile remained. Indeed, Commander, there is much to discuss. The Terran Empire has long stood apart from the wars of the galaxy, but we are not without our own concerns. The Krogan were merely a symptom of a larger problem, a problem that requires a united response. Kay's scales prickled at the implication. And what problem is that, Admiral? Reeve leaned forward slightly, his gaze intense. Instability. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Commander, and it is becoming more so every day. The Krogan were a threat, yes, but they were not the only one. If the Galactic Council is to survive in the long term, it will need more than just isolated victories. It will need strength, unity, and leadership. Kay's breath caught in his throat. Leadership. The word echoed in his mind, carrying with it the weight of everything he had feared since the Terran fleet had first appeared. You're proposing what exactly? Kay asked, though he already knew the answer. Reeves' smile widened ever so slightly. An alliance, Commander, one that is not limited to a single battle or even a single war. The Terran Empire offers its strength, its resources, and its protection to the Galactic Council. In return, we ask for cooperation, true cooperation. Under a unified command, Kay's blood ran cold. The Terran Empire was not asking for an alliance. They were demanding submission. The Council would not be an equal partner in this arrangement. They would be subordinate to the Terrans, their autonomy sacrificed for the promise of safety. And if we refuse? Kay asked, his voice barely a whisper. Reeves' expression remained unchanged, but his eyes were hard as steel. Refusal is, of course, an option. But consider this, Commander. The Krogan were a formidable enemy, and yet they fell in minutes. The Terran Empire's reach is vast, and our capabilities extend far beyond what you have seen today. We do not wish for conflict, but we will not shy away from it if necessary. The threat was clear. The Terran Empire had shown its power, and now they were offering the Council a choice: join them or face the consequences. Kay's mind raced. He had spent his entire career fighting for the survival of the Galactic Council, leading battles against enemies who threatened their existence. But this was something different. The Terrans weren't an enemy in the traditional sense. They were something far more dangerous, a force that could reshape the entire galaxy in their image. But he also knew that resistance was futile. The Krogan had been the Council's greatest threat, and they had been obliterated in a matter of moments. What chance did the Council have against the full might of the Terran Empire? KRA took a deep breath and met Reeves' gaze. We will discuss your proposal with the Council, he said, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. But understand this, Admiral, the Galactic Council has stood for thousands of years. We will not be ruled by fear. Reeves' smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of course, Commander. Take all the time you need. The Terran Empire will be waiting. The transmission ended, and the screen went dark. KRA slumped back in his chair, feeling the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. He knew what he had to do, but that didn't make the decision any easier. Stahl approached him cautiously. Commander, what are we going to do? Kay stared at the darkened screen, his mind made up. We're going to survive, Stahl. Whatever it takes, we're going to survive. The Council would discuss the Terran Empire's proposal, but Kay knew that it was already too late. The moment the Terran fleet had appeared, the galaxy had changed forever. The Council would have to adapt or be crushed under the weight of the Empire's might. As the fleet began its journey back to the heart of Council space, Kay couldn't help but think of the old saying, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. But now, the galaxy had a new devil, and it was one that no one truly knew. The Terran Empire had shown the galaxy that humanity was not afraid of war. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to remind everyone why they were the most dangerous species in the galaxy.